The air in the motel room was thick with the suffocating smell of betrayal and cheap perfume. I hadn't planned to be there that night, not in a million years. Life doesn't prepare you for moments like these. But there I was, standing in the shadow of a door that was slightly ajar, watching my wife, the woman I had loved for 15 years, laughing with another man. They were close, too close, sharing an intimacy that twisted the knife already lodged deep in my chest. Her name was Lisa. The man with her? I didn't know yet, but the look on his face made me want to break something. His hands were too familiar with her body, her laugh too free, too unguarded. It was the laugh that shattered me. That sound was mine. It was supposed to belong to me and the life we'd built. Now, it was spilled here, in this cheap, anonymous room, like something worthless. I'd come because the signs had finally become too glaring to ignore. The late nights at work, the texts she was suddenly so protective of, and that damn new perfume she wore, one that smelled nothing like her usual taste. When I confronted her 2 weeks ago, she'd laughed it off, accusing me of paranoia and saying I needed a hobby. Lisa had always been sharp-tongued, but lately, her jabs cut deeper. And then there were the mysterious credit card charges, small at first, but one stood out, a motel bill from 2 towns over. I'd decided to let my instincts guide me. Tracking her wasn't something I'd ever imagined doing, but that night, when she claimed she was out with her friend, I followed her instead. The way she had smiled into her phone before leaving the house felt off, too eager, too staged. When she pulled into the motel parking lot, my stomach turned. But I parked, waited, and now here I was, about to confront a truth I wasn't ready for. The moment stretched, unbearable. My heart pounded so loudly I thought they might hear it. My hand hovered over the doorframe. Should I storm in? Call her name? No. Not yet. Not like this. Instead, I pulled out my phone and started recording. The shaking lens captured her sitting on the bed with him, leaning too close, her fingers playing with his tie. My mind raced with everything I wanted to say, the fury bubbling under my skin. But this moment wasn't for words. It was for clarity, proof of what I already knew in my gut. Suddenly, her laughter died, replaced by an all-too-familiar coldness. "Did you hear that?" she asked, her voice sharp, head tilting toward the door. I froze. The man, who looked like he'd stepped out of a sleazy insurance ad, waved her off. "It's nothing. Come on, Lisa, relax. Relax." That's what I'd been told so many times. Relax when the lies felt too obvious, relax when my instincts screamed at me. Not anymore. With a deep breath, I stepped into the room. Relax? Is that what we're calling this now, Lisa? I said, my voice calm, but laced with venom. Her head whipped around, her face going pale before flushing red. "What the hell, Mike? Are you insane?" "Insane?" I echoed, raising my phone. "Maybe. But at least I'm not a liar." The man looked between us, clearly panicking. "I don't know what's going on here, but I—" "Shut up," I snapped, locking eyes with him. "You don't get to talk." "Not yet." Lisa stood, crossing her arms defensively. "So what? You followed me? That's real mature, Mike." The audacity of her words made me laugh, though there was no humor in it. "Mature? You're lecturing me about maturity in a motel room with this clown?" Her face twisted, a mask of indignant defiance. "You've been unbearable lately. Always suspicious, always accusing me of things. What was I supposed to do?" I stared at her, stunned at how easily she tried to spin this, to make me the villain. "What were you supposed to do?" "Oh, I don't know, maybe not cheat." Her silence only lasted a second. "You drove me to this, Mike. You and your constant nagging." That was the first punch to my gut. She wasn't sorry. Not even a little. You're unbelievable, I said, shaking my head. 15 years, Lisa. I gave you everything. Her eyes narrowed, her voice dripping venom. And maybe that was the problem, Mike. Too much of you. For the first time in my life, I felt completely hollow. Whatever love I still had for her cracked in that moment, spilling into the void between us. The silence between us felt like it could snap at any second, the air charged with tension that prickled my skin. Lisa's words, "Too much of you," echoed in my ears, each syllable twisting the knife she'd buried in my back. The man, now visibly sweating, stood up from the bed like a kid caught stealing candy. He glanced at Lisa, then at me, his lips trembling as he stammered, "Look, man, I didn't know she was." "Don't," I growled, cutting him off. "Don't you dare pretend you didn't know." My eyes darted to Lisa. "Did you tell him you were married? Or did you leave that little detail out?" Lisa smirked, crossing her arms again. That damn smirk. It was the same one she gave when she thought she was untouchable. Of course he knew. He's not stupid. The man's face flushed, his hands raising as if to shield himself. I think I should go." "Sit down," I barked, the authority in my voice making even Lisa flinch. The man froze, his knees buckling slightly as he lowered himself back to the bed. He looked like a cornered rat, and I couldn't decide whether I wanted to pity him or break him. Lisa, on the other hand, seemed completely unfazed. She leaned against the wall, inspecting her nails like we were discussing the weather. "You're making a scene, Mike. Maybe you should leave before you embarrass yourself further." I laughed, the sound hollow and humorless. "Embarrass myself? You've been screwing around in a motel, Lisa. I think the embarrassment is all yours." She rolled her eyes, a gesture so dismissive it made my blood boil. "Oh, please. Like you've been a saint all these years. Don't act like you're perfect." My fists clenched at my sides. "Don't you dare try to spin this on me. This isn't about perfection. It's about loyalty. Something you clearly don't give a damn about." The man on the bed cleared his throat, his voice weak. "Look, I really didn't mean to." I said, "Shut up." I snapped, my glare pinning him to the spot. "You're lucky I don't drag you out of here by your cheap tie." The coward shrank further into the bed, muttering something about needing to leave. But Lisa's reaction was what stopped me cold. She laughed. Not nervously, not in discomfort, but fully, unapologetically laughed. "You're so predictable, Mike," she said, her voice dripping with derision. "All bark, no bite. You come in here, acting all high and mighty, but let's be honest, you're not going to do anything. You never do." Her words hit me like a slap. She was challenging me, daring me to react. And for a brief moment, I considered it. I could see myself grabbing the man by his shirt and throwing him into the wall, smashing that smug look off her face with words so sharp she'd never recover. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I pulled out my phone and hit play on the recording. The room filled with the sound of their voices from just moments before, their laughter, their flirtation. The man paled, while Lisa's expression hardened. "What the hell is this?" she snapped, her voice finally losing some of its cocky edge. "Proof," I said simply, holding the phone up. "For the divorce lawyer. For anyone who thinks I'm overreacting. You don't get to weasel your way out of this, Lisa. Not this time." Her eyes narrowed, and for the first time, I saw something that looked like fear. But it was gone in an instant, replaced by that icy indifference. "Fine. You want a divorce? Good. Maybe I'll finally get some peace." Peace. That word hung in the air, heavy with implication. All these years, I'd thought we were building a life together. A family. A future. And now, she was telling me I'd been a burden she was relieved to shed. The weight of it pressed down on my chest, stealing my breath. The man, sensing an opening, stood up cautiously. "Look, I'm just gonna go," I said, my voice low but firm. "Before I change my mind." He didn't need to be told twice. He bolted out of the room, not even bothering to close the door behind him. For a brief, surreal moment, it was just Lisa and me, standing in the aftermath of the storm. "You're pathetic," she said, breaking the silence. "You think recording us makes you some kind of hero? All it does is prove how desperate you are." I took a step closer, my voice steady. "Desperate? Maybe. But at least I'm not a liar. At least I'm not a coward." Her lips twisted into a cruel smile. "Coward? No, Mike, I'm just done. Done with you, done with this marriage, done pretending you're anything more than a boring, washed-up man clinging to a fantasy." I stared at her, my chest heaving with the effort to keep from exploding. And then, something inside me shifted. The anger was still there, burning hot, but underneath it was something sharper, clarity. "You know what, Lisa?" I said, my voice calm. "You're right. I am done. But not with me, with you." Her eyes widened, just a fraction, and for the first time, she looked unsure. It was small, but it was enough. Enough to know that this wasn't over. Not yet. Because Lisa had underestimated me. And now, she was about to find out just how wrong she'd been. Lisa's smirk faltered. She crossed her arms tighter, the first crack in her armor showing. "Oh, spare me the dramatics, Mike. What are you gonna do? Cry? Throw a tantrum? You don't have it in you to." I held up a hand, cutting her off mid-sentence. "Stop talking, Lisa. Just stop." My voice was calm, too calm, and I could see it unsettled her. "You think you know me, that you've got me pegged as this weak, pathetic man. But tonight, you're going to learn just how wrong you've been." Her brow furrowed, but she forced a laugh. "You're delusional." "Maybe," I said, shrugging. "But let me show you just how delusional I can be." Before she could respond, I pulled my phone out again. Her smugness returned for a split second, thinking I was about to play the recording again. But instead, I opened the photo gallery and turned the screen toward her. Her face drained of color. What the hell is that?" The photo was one I'd taken weeks earlier, a shot of her car parked outside the same motel. I swiped to the next image, then the next, each one showing her car in different locations, restaurants, parking lots, places I knew she had no business being if she'd been telling the truth. "I've been watching, Lisa," I said, my voice steady. 4 weeks. Tracking you, piecing it all together. You think you're so smart, so untouchable, but you're not. You're sloppy. Reckless." Her jaw tightened, but she didn't speak. The confidence she'd wielded so effortlessly earlier had started to slip. "You've been spying on me?" "No," I said, pocketing the phone. "I've been uncovering the truth. Something you were too much of a coward to admit." She stepped forward, her finger jabbing toward me. "You're sick. You had no right to follow me, to invade my privacy." I laughed, the sound bitter. "Privacy? In a marriage? The only thing I invaded was your web of lies, Lisa. And now, I've got everything I need." "What are you talking about?" she asked, her voice sharp, a hint of panic creeping in. I leaned in closer, my eyes locking onto hers. "I filed for divorce this morning." Her gasp was audible, her composure cracking wide open. "You did what?" "You heard me," I said, my tone cold. "And I didn't stop there. I've frozen our joint accounts. I've spoken to a lawyer about dividing the assets. And, oh, I made sure to let your parents know exactly what you've been up to." Her face turned a shade of red I hadn't seen before. You son of a... Don't, I interrupted, my voice cutting through hers like a knife. Don't you dare try to flip this on me. You did this, Lisa. Not me. For the first time, she looked genuinely rattled. She ran a hand through her hair, pacing the small room like a caged animal. You don't know what you're doing, Mike. You're being impulsive, emotional. Emotional? I snapped, my voice rising. Of course I'm emotional, Lisa. You shattered everything we built together. You turned 15 years into a joke. Her pacing stopped, and she turned to face me, her eyes blazing. You're not perfect, Mike. Don't act like you are. You think you're some saint, but you've been distant, boring, stuck in your routine. I needed more. I deserve more. I took a step back, her words hitting me like a freight train. The venom in her voice was unlike anything I'd ever heard from her. You deserve more? I repeated, shaking my head in disbelief. More what, Lisa? More lies? More betrayal? Or just more cheap motel rooms with losers who can't even look me in the eye? She flinched at that, but the defiance in her expression didn't waver. Maybe I do. And maybe you should take a long, hard look at yourself and ask why I had to go somewhere else to feel alive. The words stung, but they didn't cut as deep as she thought they would. If anything, they only fueled my resolve. I had spent years bending over backward to make her happy, sacrificing pieces of myself along the way. And for what? To be met with this? No. Not anymore. You're right, I said, my voice calm. Maybe I should have done things differently. Maybe I should have seen the cracks sooner. But this? This is on you, Lisa. Not me. She stared at me, her chest rising and falling rapidly as she searched for something to say. For once, she seemed at a loss for words. The sound of a knock at the door broke the tension like a thunderclap. Lisa jumped, her eyes darting toward the entrance. Who the hell is that? She hissed. I didn't answer. Instead, I walked to the door, opened it, and let the two men in suits step inside. Lisa, I said, gesturing toward them, meet my lawyers. I thought we'd get a head start on the paperwork. Her mouth fell open, her eyes darting between me and the men who now stood in the room, briefcases in hand. You're insane, she whispered, her voice trembling. No, I said, stepping closer to her. I'm done. And for the first time in weeks, I felt free. Lisa's face twisted with fury as the two lawyers stepped into the room, their presence casting an ominous shadow over her smugness. She looked between them and me, her chest heaving, but she was too stunned to speak. This wasn't the reaction she was expecting, she'd expected me to crumble, not to rise. You brought your lawyers here, she finally sputtered, her voice rising in disbelief. What the hell is wrong with you? Nothing, I said coolly. But there's plenty wrong with you, Lisa. And since you love surprises, I thought I'd give you one of your own. Lisa's eyes narrowed. This is ridiculous. You can't just drag your lawyers into some motel room like this and expect me to. Lisa, one of the lawyers interrupted, his tone professional but firm, we're here to facilitate a conversation. Mr. Parker, he gestured toward me, has expressed concerns about asset division and custody matters. We thought it prudent to address them sooner rather than later. Custody? Lisa shrieked, her voice echoing off the dingy motel walls. You think you're taking the kids, Mike? Over my dead body. I smiled, the kind of smile that wasn't warm but razor sharp. Oh, Lisa, that's not up to you anymore. You see, I've been preparing for this for weeks. Every lie, every excuse you fed me. It's all documented. And don't forget that little recording I just made. She paled at the mention of the recording, her confidence slipping further. You wouldn't dare use that. "Oh, I would," I said, stepping closer. "And I will. The courts love a clear picture, Lisa. Especially one where the mother of two is caught in a seedy motel with a guy who barely knows her name." Her lips pressed into a thin line, her fury barely contained. "You're such a vindictive, bitter man. This isn't going to work. No one's going to believe your sob story." "I don't need anyone to believe me," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I just need the facts to speak for themselves. And believe me, Lisa, they do." One of the lawyers cleared his throat, breaking the tense standoff. "We'd like to propose an interim agreement," he said, opening his briefcase and pulling out a stack of papers. "Something that protects both parties while the legal process unfolds." Lisa's gaze flicked to the papers, and for the first time, she hesitated. "This is insane," she muttered, shaking her head. "You're turning this into a spectacle." "No," I replied, my voice firm. "You did that. I'm just making sure the fallout lands where it belongs." She glared at me, then snatched the papers from the lawyer's hand. "Fine," she spat. "You want to play dirty? Let's play dirty." But just as she started skimming the document, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She glanced at it reflexively, her brow furrowing before she grabbed it. "What now?" she muttered, swiping to unlock the screen. I watched her expression shift, from irritation to confusion, and then to outright panic. What is this?" "Something wrong, Lisa?" I asked, feigning concern. Her hands shook as she held up the phone, revealing a flood of messages. They were from her so-called friend, the man I had just sent scurrying out of the motel room. His texts were frantic, filled with apologies and warnings. "Lisa, he knows everything. He recorded us. I think he's going to ruin us." Her eyes darted back to me, her voice trembling. You set this up, didn't you?" I shrugged. "Set up? No. I just made sure the truth came to light. Funny how people panic when their secrets are exposed." Lisa looked like she was about to implode. "You're a monster." "No," I said, stepping closer, my voice low and controlled. "I'm a man who trusted the wrong person. And now, I'm making it right." The lawyer next to me spoke up again, his tone clinical. "Lisa, we advise you to review the interim agreement carefully. If you refuse to sign, we'll have no choice but to escalate matters in court." "Escalate?" she snapped, her voice cracking. "You can't just bulldoze over me like this." "Oh, Lisa," I said, leaning in so only she could hear me. "You haven't even seen the bulldozer yet." The motel door slammed open before she could respond, and the man from earlier burst in, his face red and frantic. "Lisa, we need to talk," he blurted, ignoring the room full of people. Lisa groaned, covering her face with her hands. "Are you kidding me, Greg? Now?" Greg, as I now knew his name, looked around nervously, his gaze landing on me. "Look, man, I'm sorry, okay? I didn't know it would come to this. Can we just talk?" I turned to Lisa, raising an eyebrow. "This is your idea of more, huh? Real prize you've got there." Greg flushed, stammering something incomprehensible, but Lisa snapped. "Both of you, shut up. This is a disaster." "No, Lisa," I said, my voice calm but firm. "This is justice." And for the first time since the night began, I felt the balance shift. I wasn't the victim anymore. I was the one calling the shots. And as Lisa stared at me, her bravado shattered, I knew the game had changed for good. Lisa paced the motel room like a caged animal, her fury boiling over as Greg lingered by the door, clearly regretting every life decision that had led him here. My lawyers stood calmly, their presence an undeniable reminder that this wasn't just a messy argument anymore, this was a reckoning. "This is a joke," Lisa hissed, spinning around to face me. You're trying to humiliate me. You've always been so obsessed with control, and now you're turning my life into a circus. Humiliate you? I shot back, my voice colder than I thought it could be. No, Lisa. You managed that all by yourself. I'm just the audience, watching your show. Her glare could have melted steel. You really think you've won, don't you? I don't care about winning, I said, stepping closer. I care about truth. About making sure you can't lie your way out of this one. Greg finally found his voice, though it was shaky at best. Look, I'm not trying to make things worse, but maybe we could all just take a step back. Figure this out like adults? I turned to him, my eyes narrowing. You've already done enough, Greg. The only thing you're figuring out tonight is how to get out of this room without me throwing you through that window. Greg took a cautious step back, his hands raised in surrender. All right, man. I get it. You're pissed. But this is between you two. I didn't mean to get in the middle of. You didn't mean to get in the middle? I barked, my voice sharp enough to cut through his excuses. You're literally the middle of this mess, Greg. You knew she was married. You knew exactly what you were doing. Lisa groaned, rubbing her temples like she was the one under attack. Oh my God, can we please stop with the moral lecture? Greg, shut up. Mike, stop playing the victim. None of this matters. Doesn't matter? I echoed, my voice rising. You blew up our life, Lisa. 15 years, and you threw it away for this? I gestured toward Greg, who looked like he wanted to crawl into a hole. Lisa's lip curled in a sneer. 15 years of what, Mike? Of you treating me like a trophy on a shelf? Like my whole world should revolve around you? Newsflash, you're not perfect. You never were. Her words stung, but they didn't break me. Not anymore. And you're a paragon of perfection? I shot back. Sneaking around in motels, lying to your kids, destroying our family? Congratulations, Lisa. You really showed me how much better you are. Lisa opened her mouth to retort, but she froze as my phone buzzed on the table. The sound broke the tension like a gunshot. Slowly, I picked it up, noting the name on the screen, Carly. Lisa's eyes widened. Why is Carly calling you? Carly, our 13-year-old daughter, rarely called. She preferred texting like most teenagers. The suddenness of it made my chest tighten. I raised a hand to silence Lisa as I answered. Hey, sweetheart. What's wrong? Her voice came through, shaky and small. Dad? I think something's wrong with Mom. There's a weird charge on her credit card, and she's not answering her phone. Is she okay? Lisa's face turned ashen as she realized her lies were starting to ripple outward. I locked eyes with her, the weight of our daughter's concern hammering into me like a freight train. She's fine, Carly, I said, keeping my voice steady. I'm with her now. You're sure? Carly asked, her voice trembling. Because Aunt Beth called earlier, and she said Mom's been acting weird lately. She's not leaving us, is she? Lisa's mouth opened in shock, her eyes filling with something that looked like guilt for the first time all night. But I didn't give her a chance to speak. No, Carly, I said firmly. She's not leaving. Don't worry, okay? I'll explain everything soon. Carly hesitated, then whispered, okay, Dad. I love you. I love you too, I said, my voice cracking despite myself. I ended the call, setting the phone down with deliberate care before turning back to Lisa. Even Carly sees through you, I said, my voice low. Our daughter. She's already picking up on your lies. Lisa's hands shook as she tried to defend herself. That's not fair, Mike. She doesn't know the whole story. No, I said, stepping closer. She doesn't. And whose fault is that, Lisa? You dragged this family into your mess, and now you've got our daughter worried sick. Lisa's bravado cracked wide open. For the first time, her voice faltered. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Too late, I said. It's already gone too far. And now you have to live with the consequences. The lawyers, silent until now, exchanged a glance. One of them cleared his throat. Perhaps this would be a good time to sign the interim agreement, he said, sliding the papers toward Lisa again. It's in everyone's best interest to move forward constructively. Lisa stared at the papers, her hands trembling as she reached for the pen. Her defiance was gone, replaced by something that looked a lot like defeat. But just as she was about to sign, the door burst open again. This time, it wasn't Greg or another unwelcome guest. It was a police officer. Michael Parker, the officer said, his gaze sweeping the room. We received a call about a disturbance. Lisa's head snapped up, her eyes widening. What? Who called the cops? Greg froze, looking even guiltier than before. I might have, just in case things got out of hand. I sighed, running a hand down my face. Fantastic, I muttered. Let's add that to the circus. The officer stepped in, taking in the scene, the lawyers, the papers, Lisa's stricken face, and Greg cowering by the door. He raised an eyebrow. Looks like I missed the main event. Mind telling me what's going on here? I smiled, though it didn't reach my eyes. Sure, officer. Where should I start? The officer's gaze swept across the room, taking in Lisa's wide eyes, Greg's hunched posture near the door, and my calm demeanor, which, I'll admit, was more performative than genuine. He stepped further in, his hand resting lightly on his belt. All right, I don't know what's going on, but someone's going to have to start talking. Lisa immediately jumped in, her voice shrill and defensive. This is ridiculous. It's a private matter, officer. My husband here is just. I'm documenting my wife's affair, I interrupted, cutting her off. My tone was measured, but the edge in my voice was unmistakable. And ensuring everything is handled legally. The officer's brows rose slightly. An affair, he repeated, glancing between us. So, this isn't violent or anything? Not yet, I said, giving Greg a pointed look. The man flinched, shrinking further into the corner. Mike. Lisa snapped, her face flushing with a mix of rage and humiliation. Can you stop embarrassing me for 5 seconds? Embarrass you? I repeated, laughing bitterly. Lisa, you've done that all on your own. The officer held up a hand, his voice firm. All right, enough. If there's no immediate threat, I'm going to need everyone to calm down and explain what's happening. Otherwise, I'll ask you to vacate the premises. Greg took this as his cue, scrambling to his feet. Officer? I was just leaving anyway. I don't need to be here. You're not going anywhere, I said, stepping into his path. You're part of this mess, and you're staying until it's sorted. Greg froze, his eyes darting to the officer for help. The cop sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. Sir, if he's not being detained, he's free to leave. Oh, he's being detained, I said firmly. By his own cowardice. Greg muttered something under his breath, but Lisa exploded. For God's sake, Mike, stop acting like a lunatic. This is why I couldn't stand you anymore. Always trying to control everything, always needing to be the hero. The officer raised a brow at her. Ma'am, I'd suggest you lower your tone. This is not helping your case. My case? Lisa repeated, incredulous. I'm not the one calling the cops over a domestic squabble. Lisa, I said, my voice quieter but deadly cold, this isn't a squabble. It's the culmination of every selfish decision you've made. You think I'm controlling? Fine. Call it control. But this is me taking back what little respect you left me. The officer cleared his throat, clearly done with the back and forth. Okay, enough drama. Here's the deal, if there's no immediate threat, I'll leave. But if this escalates again, someone might be spending the night in a cell. Are we clear? I nodded. Crystal. Lisa muttered something under her breath, but the officer ignored her. With a final glance around the room, he stepped back toward the door. Keep it civil, folks. Last warning. As the door clicked shut behind him, the room plunged into silence, the tension thick enough to choke on. Greg took a hesitant step forward. So, can I go now? No, I snapped, rounding on him. Not until we're done here. Lisa threw up her hands. Oh, my God, Mike. Let him go. What's the point of all this? You got your recording, your pictures, your lawyers. You've won. What more do you want? Closure, I said, meeting her eyes. Not just for me, Lisa. For Carly. For Liam. For the life you shattered. Her jaw tightened at the mention of our children. Don't bring them into this. They're already in this, I shot back. You put them here. Every lie, every excuse, they feel it, even if they don't understand it yet. For the first time, Lisa looked genuinely shaken. Her defiance flickered, replaced by something softer, almost regretful. Mike, You what? I interrupted. You're sorry? Save it, Lisa. You're not sorry for what you did. You're sorry you got caught. Greg took another step toward the door, but I blocked him again. You're not leaving until you tell me something, Greg, I said, my voice low. Why her? Why now? You could have had anyone. Why my wife? Greg's face turned a deep shade of red. Look, man, I didn't, it wasn't like that, okay? She said you two were basically over. That you didn't care. Lisa's head snapped toward him, her eyes wide. I never said that. Greg blinked, confused. You, what? You said you were miserable. That he was checked out. That. I said I felt trapped, Lisa snapped, her voice rising. Not that we were over. God, Greg, are you really this dense? Greg's face fell, his expression a mix of betrayal and disbelief. Trapped? Is that all I was to you? An escape route? The room went deathly quiet, the weight of Greg's realization settling over all of us. Lisa's lips pressed into a thin line, and for the first time all night, she looked genuinely cornered. Wow, Greg muttered, shaking his head. I really am an idiot. You said it, not me, I replied, unable to hide the satisfaction in my tone. Lisa's hands trembled as she finally grabbed the pen and scrawled her name on the agreement papers. Fine, she spat, shoving them back toward the lawyer. You want your divorce? You've got it. I'm done with this circus. No, Lisa, I said as she stormed toward the door. The circus is done with you. She paused, her shoulders stiff, but didn't look back. Without another word, she left, the door slamming behind her. Greg hesitated for a moment, then followed, muttering something about needing a drink. I stood in the empty motel room, the silence deafening. For the first time, it felt like I could breathe again. I turned to the lawyers, nodding toward the papers. Let's make this official. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't holding onto something broken. I was letting go. The motel room felt eerily quiet after Lisa and Greg left, like the air had been sucked out of it. My lawyers collected the signed agreement papers, their professional demeanor never wavering, but I could see the faint glimmer of satisfaction in their eyes. They knew we'd won this round. As I watched them pack up, the weight of what had just happened began to settle in. My marriage was over. 15 years gone, reduced to a stack of papers and a recording on my phone. But strangely, I didn't feel broken. Not anymore. If anything, I felt something I hadn't expected: clarity. One of the lawyers, a sharp-eyed woman named Emily, broke the silence. "We'll file these with the court first thing in the morning. Expect a call from us regarding next steps, particularly concerning custody arrangements." I nodded, running a hand through my hair. "Thanks, Emily. I'll be ready." She hesitated, then added, "For what it's worth, Mike, you handled that better than most people would have." I gave a short laugh, though it felt hollow. Handled it, sure. But better? I don't know about that. Emily smiled faintly, then gestured to her colleague. "We'll be in touch." As they left, I sat down on the edge of the bed, staring at the door. My phone buzzed again, a text from Carly. "Everything okay, Dad?" I took a deep breath, typing back a quick response: "It will be, sweetheart. I promise." But as I hit send, the faint buzz of the night's events began to shift. Something didn't feel finished. Lisa's departure had been too abrupt, her reaction too calculated. It wasn't like her to leave without one final jab, one last attempt to twist the knife. Then it hit me. I grabbed my phone and opened the tracking app I'd installed weeks ago, the one Lisa didn't know about. Her car's location popped up instantly, a blinking dot that wasn't headed home. My stomach churned as I realized where she was going. Not Greg's house. Not her sister's. The bank. I grabbed my jacket, my pulse quickening. I'd frozen the joint accounts earlier that day, but Lisa wasn't one to go down without a fight. If she thought she could pull one last stunt, she was in for a rude awakening. By the time I arrived at the bank, it was nearly closing time. The parking lot was mostly empty, save for Lisa's car parked haphazardly near the entrance. Inside, the fluorescent lights buzzed faintly as a lone teller worked behind the counter. Lisa was at the far end of the lobby, her voice raised as she argued with a manager. She hadn't noticed me yet, too wrapped up in whatever scheme she was trying to pull. I stayed back, watching as the manager shook his head and pointed to his computer screen. "I'm sorry, ma'am," he said, his tone firm but polite. "But these accounts have been flagged. I can't release any funds without proper authorization from both parties." Lisa's frustration boiled over. "This is my money," she hissed. "I have every right to access it." The manager didn't flinch. "Not anymore, ma'am. The court order is clear." Her head snapped toward him, and for a moment, I saw the panic in her eyes. She knew she was cornered. But then, as if sensing my presence, she turned and locked eyes with me. "What the hell are you doing here?" she spat, her voice venomous. I stepped forward, my hands in my pockets, keeping my tone calm. "Just making sure you don't do anything stupid, Lisa." Looks like I was right. "You've got some nerve," she snapped. "This is my money too, Mike. You don't get to decide how I spend it." "No," I said, stepping closer. "But the court does. And they've already decided you don't get to drain our accounts to fund your little escape plan." Her face flushed, but she held her ground. "This isn't over, Mike." "It is," I said firmly. "You signed the papers. The lawyers are filing them tomorrow. You've lost." Lisa's hands clenched into fists, her eyes blazing with fury. "You think you're so clever, don't you? You think you've won because you humiliated me? Well, guess what, Mike, you haven't seen the last of me." I smiled, though there was no warmth in it. "You can try whatever you want, Lisa. But just remember, I'm not the same guy who let you walk all over him. Those days are gone." Her jaw tightened, but before she could respond, the manager stepped in. If you're finished, ma'am, I'll need to ask you to leave. We're closing. Lisa glared at me one last time, then grabbed her purse and stormed past me without another word. The sound of her heels echoed through the empty lobby, each step a reminder that this battle wasn't just about money or betrayal, it was about reclaiming my life. As I walked back to my car, my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't Carly. It was a number I didn't recognize. Curious, I answered. Hello? A woman's voice came through, hesitant but familiar. Hi, is this Mike Parker? Yes, I said cautiously. Who's this? There was a pause, then the woman sighed. My name's Hannah. I'm Greg's wife. I froze, the pieces clicking into place. Greg's wife? Yes, she said, her voice trembling. I think we need to talk. For a moment, I couldn't speak. The betrayal I thought I'd untangled suddenly had new threads, new layers. Lisa and Greg weren't just cheaters, they were destroying more than one life. Where are you? I asked, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. I'm at home, she said softly. And I have something you need to see. The drive to Hannah's house felt surreal, like I was stepping into the next act of a nightmare I couldn't wake from. My mind raced with possibilities. What could she have that I needed to see? How much deeper did this rabbit hole go? By the time I pulled into her quiet suburban driveway, my hands were gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles ached. Hannah met me at the door. She was younger than I expected, late 20s, maybe, and her face was a mix of exhaustion and quiet determination. She ushered me inside without a word, leading me to a small, dimly lit living room. Thank you for coming, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I wasn't sure if I should call you, but you deserve to know. Know what? I asked, my throat dry. She took a deep breath, then handed me her phone. This. On the screen was a series of text messages, long exchanges between Lisa and Greg. My stomach churned as I read through them, each line like a slap to the face. Lisa, he's such a bore, Greg. I don't even know why I stayed this long. Greg, at least it'll be over soon. You and I can finally stop sneaking around. Lisa, can't wait. I'll make sure he gets nothing in the divorce. He deserves it. Greg, just remember the plan. You distract him while I handle the rest. Lisa, don't worry. He's too stupid to see it coming. I looked up at Hannah, my chest tightening. The plan? Her jaw tightened, and she pointed to another folder on the coffee table. Greg's been siphoning money from our accounts. He's been funneling it through shell companies. And from what I can tell, Lisa was planning to do the same to you. My breath caught as I opened the folder. It was all there, bank transfers, fake business names, even a document with Lisa's signature authorizing a withdrawal from our joint account. My frozen accounts had stopped her just in time. They were going to bleed us both dry, Hannah said, her voice trembling. Lisa's been pushing Greg to speed things up, probably because she knew you were catching on. A cold fury settled over me, sharper than anything I'd felt in the motel room. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore, it was calculated, malicious. They hadn't just broken trust, they'd tried to destroy me. Why are you telling me this? I asked, looking at her. You didn't have to. Hannah hesitated, then shrugged. Because I'm done being a victim. Greg lied to me, cheated on me, and then dragged me into this mess. I want him to pay. And I figure you do too. I nodded, the pieces clicking into place. You're damn right I do. The next week was a whirlwind. With Hannah's help, I passed everything we found to my lawyers. They worked tirelessly, filing motions, freezing accounts, and building a case that would make sure neither Lisa nor Greg would walk away unscathed. Lisa tried to contact me once, an email, of all things. It was full of the same manipulative nonsense: "You're blowing this out of proportion, I never meant to hurt you, and my personal favorite, we can fix this." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The legal system was speaking for me now. Hannah and I stayed in touch, united by our shared betrayal. She filed for divorce from Greg the same day I finalized mine with Lisa. The court sided with me on nearly everything: full custody of Carly and Liam, majority of our shared assets, and even punitive damages for Lisa's attempted fraud. She didn't just lose me, she lost everything. Greg didn't fare much better. The evidence of his financial schemes put him in hot water, and last I heard, he was facing criminal charges. He tried to reach out to Hannah, but she'd blocked him. She'd moved on, just like I was trying to. A few months later, I found myself at Carly's soccer game. The crisp autumn air felt clean, refreshing. Liam was by my side, cheering loudly as Carly sprinted down the field. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt okay. Hannah joined us, waving as she sat down on the bleachers. She'd become a surprising ally in all this, and while there was no romance between us, yet, there was a shared understanding that brought us closer. "Hey," she said, nudging me. "Carly's got a killer kick. Must get it from you." I chuckled. "Nah, that's all her. She's stronger than I ever was." Hannah smiled, her gaze softening. "You're stronger than you think, Mike. Not everyone would have handled what you did with as much grace." Grace. I wasn't sure if that was the word I'd use, but as I watched Carly score the winning goal and Liam jump up to celebrate, I realized it didn't matter. What mattered was this moment, this fresh start. Lisa and Greg had tried to destroy me, but they'd failed. And in their failure, I'd found something I hadn't realized I'd lost: myself. As Carly ran over, beaming with pride, I hugged her tight, a smile breaking across my face. "Proud of you, kiddo," I said. And for the first time in years, I meant it, not just about her, but about me too.